in living out our faith on a daily basis. And what we have to do, I think, is break down one last kind of lie or false idea. And that is what a life of a saint is. Because when we imagine that, usually it's somebody very distant, kind of like a Lone Ranger type. And I kind of make fun of this sometimes in the artwork. You see, saints are always kind of looking very mystical. And I think of even the way Jesus is often portrayed in movies. Blessed are the poor, for they shall inherit the earth. It kind of floats out of the scene. Now, I don't mean to be overcritical. I think it's hard to make a movie, period. And then to make one about someone as central as the person of Jesus Christ, and to get that right is very, very hard. And so people tend to err on the side of sort of mystic and aloof. But I really do think Christ is a little more engaging than that. That if he was here among us, and I believe in spirit he certainly is, but even if he was physically present, he would care. He'd want to know how you're doing. It'd be interesting how the storm went this morning, and how did that scare you, and what do you have for breakfast, and what are you afraid of going to your job, or your work, or your school? You know, he's engaging. And that's what it's really all about, making that choice. I wanted to refer to a book. This is going to be coming out pretty soon. This is kind of an advanced copy. Have you ever heard of Matthew Kelly? He's a young man from Australia. Very interesting backstory. He was, when he was very young, I guess when he was in his teens, he had this sort of mystical experience of faith. He really felt that God the Father spoke to him directly. I think he wrote his first book when he was 17. I think I read my first book when I was 17. And he's had these expressions of faith. And he's gone through his life. He's a little bit older now. He's married with a family. He's a motivational speaker. But he's written a number of books. And he purposely writes them in a very simple way, so that people can take them home. And you don't have to be a theologian. You don't have to have any faith. You just pick up this book and you start to read it, and he makes a point on, in a way, it's like a shallow entry into faith. They're profound things here. But it's often expressed in a very simple way. And I think it's really neat. And whoever his backer is, they produce these things by the ton. And so churches will often buy them. It's almost $2 a book. They're very inexpensive. And give them away to people. It's become kind of a thing. And so this is why I have the advanced copy. They sent me this in the summer. And we're talking about buying a couple thousand of these and giving them away at Christmas time. Remember that. We're going to come back to that in a minute. But the name of the book is The Biggest Lie in the History of Christianity. Now, we took a poll and I asked you that. I'd be interested in some of your answers. Like, what's the biggest lie? There's been maybe a few lies, but what's the biggest one? Now, if you don't play golf, and you didn't have any questions before, I don't think you're going to put up your hand now, so I'm not going to push too hard on this. But the biggest lie that he talks about is the idea that holiness is not attainable. That you can't be a saint. In fact, as I was reflecting a bit about this, I think the biggest lie is almost a double lie. That you failed at being a saint. It's already too late. Because your idea of a saint is what I kind of described earlier. It's a plaster of Paris statue or somebody in a stained glass window. And you think that's an ideal that's just too far beyond me. It's impossible. And worse than that, in your efforts to do it and failing, we do that. I described it a couple talks ago. It's almost like you get this idea, well, I can't be a saint. I'm just too broken inside. I'll put up a pious kind of exterior. I'll just bow real low when I come to church, and I'll flutter my eyes when you put the Eucharist up, and I'll do certain things that make me look kind of pious, and then people won't say anything. They won't know what's going on inside. Now again, piety, if it's an expression of authentic spirituality, there's nothing wrong with that. But if I use my piety and my expression to hide or mask what's really going on in my heart, a loneliness or fear or a sense of isolation, or feeling like I'm the only one at adoration that doesn't get it, so I'll try to do what everybody else does and hope no one notices. That really wasn't the point of the exercise. It was to allow Christ to work within. It's a little bit ugly or a little bit strange, or if I cry or if I get a little, that's okay. Everybody does that. And once in a while, everybody needs that. Does that make sense? So going forward, what is it to be a saint? What Matthew Kelly makes in his book is this illustration that it's not about being wrapped in God's glory 24/7. He describes in his book holy moments, inspirations, these little fleeting times in our life every day when you think of somebody who's in need. Maybe it's a family member, it pops in your mind. My grandparents aren't doing that well. And now you have a choice to make. I can just pass that by, or I can take a moment to pray for them. Or better yet, pick up my phone and call them. I see somebody at work and they don't look like they have a ride home. Could I offer them one? You know, I see a situation at camp and there was something missing this year. Can I step up and be the change I want to see for next year? It's what I said the other day. It's doing consistently, we ended with this last night, what anybody can do occasionally. Is rising to this moment and being that better person. Letting Christ be the center of what he might be asking you to do in any given scene. These are things that we can actually do. And if you put enough of those together, it's the spiritual life. It's the capacity to actually be that. People see us and they say, it's not just piety. There's a sense of attractiveness, of joyfulness. Remember I said about my high school students. They're actually a bit of envy. Like, what is it about you people? You're happy all the time. What's that about? Bug me. Good. Be bugged. Better yet, ask why. Better yet, experience it for yourselves. Now, do you want another story? Okay, but be careful what you ask for. This one's just a little bit different. This one is actually, I don't always tell this one in public, okay? This is one I like to tell when I'm doing priest retreats. A bunch of old priests, this is you know I'm talking to. Okay? It involves a medical procedure. Are we all comfortable with that? Yes. I think Sherry was mentioning last night about kind of like getting to know priests and not quite sure how to relate to them and treat them as like real people. This will probably help you in that area, okay? Fair warning? Okay. So the origins of this story is a few years ago, actually about 10. And my community gets together just before you all get together. So the week before Labor Day weekend, we all gather as Companions of the Cross. And we used to go to a place called Red Pine Camp, which isn't too far from here. And it's a big old campsite, just like this one. And it's a little rustic. And so, you know, they had cabins, and the facilities weren't actually in the cabins. You had to walk out to the washrooms, usually in most cases. And we just had morning prayer together fairly early in the morning, and we're walking back to the dining hall, just like we did here for breakfast. And I was walking with two of our older priests. They kind of do the old priest walk, right? And had that kind of shuffle thing going. And they're doing the old priest conversation. I was usually not privy to that. So one of them is turning to the other and he's saying, yeah, I was up twice during the night. And the other one responds, oh, it's bad for me. I was up 3 times. Now I'm listening to this and I don't got a whole lot to say. You see, I had a pretty good system going. You go to sleep. You get up in the morning, you go to the bathroom. Why would you change that? Like, I don't understand why anyone would do anything different. And one of the priests is Ed Wade. He's one of our guys, and he was an ex-Marine. He's a big guy, but he's getting a bit older now. He's got a kind of scruffy beard. He looks a little bit crooked-eyed at you. It's kind of like, you know, Santa Claus on crack. Okay, that's kind of he's a great guy, but he's got kind of a nasty look to him. And he turns to me and he says the most prophetic thing. He's always given these prophecies, but he gave the most prophetic thing he's ever said to me. He kind of gave me that steely-eyed look, and he went, you have no idea what we're talking about, do you? You'll see. Fast forward 10 years. I now understand what they're talking about. It's just human nature. You get this like middle age, and all of a sudden, you got to get up in the middle of the night. In fact, you have to get up several times in the middle of the night. And making it to the bathroom becomes like the first thing I do whenever I go anyplace, the last thing I do before I leave. In fact, it's starting to be a bit of a problem. So I go to my doctor and he puts me on medication, it kind of messes me up. And so eventually we're talking surgery. That sound like fun? And part of the surgery and the preparation for the surgery is something called a flow test. No, are there any nurses here? Okay, I just want to honor you. You probably know what a flow test is. I really had no idea. Like rivers flow, right? Like we had the maple syrup this morning, it flowed. How bad could this be? So I show up early in the morning at the hospital for the flow test. And like I go to the waiting room, it's all these old guys, like they're all in their 70s and 80s, and they're all like, oh, it's really good that you're here supporting your father. And I'm like, no. Just, dance for my age, very mature. What a flow test is essentially a catheter insertion. Now, do I need to give details? Do everyone knows what a catheter is? It's basically, yeah. And again, at this point, if I ever give this talk in mixed company, I always like to do something. To my sisters in Christ, I'm really sorry. Like, compared to women's health, men have no idea. We are just, remember those empty boxes?